Gentlemen, welcome to another live edition of Rabbit Hole Radio here on KGRA, and I am streaming live to my two YouTube channels, DTRH Radio Archives and Federal Jack Tube 6. We'll see how long this stays up before either one of those channels gets
That's right.
Or
That's
the
right.
live stream does.
Channels back online too. Whee!
Yeah. And so thanks for everyone on YouTube tuning in, everyone over on Twitter, over on KGRA. And before we get into it, big thank you to super producer Bill. He's really, if he didn't do his magic and stuff behind the scenes, and I always throw him some love because he
got to throw him love. He's the man, the myth, the legend.
Dude, all the stuff that we used to have to do to make a show run just for audio.
You know what that did
Bill
to me?
Does that.
That's what I felt like. Totally. He takes it out of it.
Baby.
Oh, wicked.
Yeah. Well, it was rough to do this stuff behind the scenes, just doing audio. And Bill does a lot for audio, video, and he makes a lot of magic happen, especially when I ask him to do things last minute. And he's usually like, Popeye, but he pulls it off somehow. So big thank you. Big thank you. Very heartfelt to super producer Bill. He is the man. He's also the station manager. He does everything. So I don't think there's anything Bill doesn't do. So thanks, Bill. So, Joe, I was hanging out with you on your broadcast. And
yes, you were.
Yeah, it was interesting to say the least.
The world's going to hell in a handbasket, I say.
Yes, we are going to hell in a handbasket, and you and I are riding the bicycles. So
yes.
Right now it's a tandem bicycle. It's cool.
Well, I like personally our LTD station wagon.
I saw it had to be like 79 or 80 Ford LTD on the road the other day. It had antique plates on it, and I felt old. I felt real old. I was like, wait a minute, what? Why does
I know, dude? It's terrible. It's terrible. It's terrible. I can't stress enough how absolutely fast I'm aging. Like fast. Like there's no doubt as you get older, days go by faster.
Dude, like I swear, like when we first started doing this, I mean, I've known you now over like 10 years. I've known you more, I've known you about a quarter of my life.
Freaking 17 years now almost.
Yeah, I've known you more than almost like a third of my life I've known you. And we've been doing this stuff. It's crazy. Yeah. Like when we talk about this, like when I say, you'll hear me bring up, it's weird to be living in what we warned about. It's weird because we warned about it. We knew it was coming. Living in it is a different thing. But the weird part is how people, and we warned about this, but seeing it with your own two eyes, just they acquiesce. I mean, when people say, how did Adolf Hitler get away with the things he did in that certain time period, in the 40s and the 30s, since you have to be careful what you say on YouTube, how come a certain person with a mustache got away with the things he did with his political party? Well, you're living it. You're looking at it.
Look at your screen. See? Leslie McKenzie in YouTube says, you've been misprogrammed, sir. Matter of fact, you know what she's saying? Return to the brainwashed.
Right. It's time for me to go back
to
the camp.
That's right. Get in your FEMA camp. I mean, get in your
Jeez, I thought FEMA camps didn't exist, Joe. I thought that was all fake.
Oh yeah, sure.
You remember that?
Yes.
You remember that, Diddy? Remember when it used to be fake? You guys are lying. FEMA camps don't exist. Okay, what's that huge thing down on Chrome Avenue in Miami? It's for migrant detention. Okay, I was in the Coast Guard. I can tell you, I was actually stationed in the Miami area. We did a lot of migrant interdiction. We didn't do enough migrant interdiction to fill up that Chrome Avenue detention center. I can tell you that. You'd need the entire Coast Guard to fill that thing.
Yep. Oh, New York City could probably use it right now.
Don't even get me started on New York.
15 hotels right now for the peeps that are crossing the border. They get bussed up to them. They ran out of spaces in the homeless shelter, and of course they're doing this. And they're saying, well, Well, this is a problem. This is a problem because we don't have the infrastructure to support this, but we're a sanctuary city. And see, everybody's getting, you know how you were talking about last hour about out of chaos order. And this is how they build up that chaos, is by creating an argument that shouldn't exist, but does. And it was totally and completely fabricated and executed. And this was years and years ago, because they knew what was coming and they knew this was going to happen. When the whole idea of citizenship came around, it's kind of the road to hell's paved by good intentions. So they did this. Well, then the taxing came about and all that kind of stuff, and things started getting a little bit sour. So they had to do something to sate the masses. Well, that's when the Social Security thing came around and all that, and you became basically a property of the corporation of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands. Okay, anyway, so you got that
since 1933.
That's right. That's right. So
the
president
is a CEO of a company, and all he is doing is overseeing the bankruptcy.
Yes,
that's all he's doing.
But with that, right? So we became assets to the federal government. The more assets they get, the more value they have. Therefore, it translates. There's a backlying formula to all this, but the backlying formula was, well, we have this system, enough people pay in, and yada, yada, yada. Well, now there's too many people coming over, and the unfunded liabilities is up around 200 trillion. Never going to pay for it unless you tax the hell out of everybody, which is the whole idea of the Great Reset, because then you can actually have all that stuff, but nobody owns anything. You see, that's how that works. So they have to get us to that point. Well, this is all critical.
That's why they're pushing us off the cliff.
That's it. That's all they're doing.
If
and
you can
incremental over time.
As an allegory for a visual, many of you have seen 300, the movie, right? With the Spartans, famous Last Stand.
Yep.
There's a scene where they have there are troops that are fighting the Spartans. The Persian troops that are fighting the Spartans, the Persians end up being cornered between the Spartans and a cliff. And the Spartans realize this, and they form a line, and they proceed to march step by step by step, and they push because they have spears and swords. Now, if you resist this push, they stab you. They either hit you with the spear or cut you with the sword, but you die fighting. Otherwise, they continue to push and push. They'll step right over your dead body. They continue to push and push until you're at the cliff, and then they pushed all the guys off the cliff. Well, that's what they're doing to us. They don't want us to have anything. Klaus Schwab and his "you'll own nothing and be happy," while we own everything and rule everything. This isn't going to be some utopia where everybody thinks it's going to be socialist and it's going to be awesome. It'll be like Gene Roddenberry dreamed of in the Star Trek series, where we'll all get together and we'll work together and humankind can travel into the stars. No. They don't want that. That would be awesome. It would be totally cool.
Everybody on the planet would actually work that way.
Right. That'd be great. Unfortunately, that's not what they're doing.
No,
they're not doing that. They're not doing that at all. That's not what they do. Their idea isn't for everybody to have rainbows and flowers and sunshine.
Oh, no. It's more like get to work, boy.
Yeah. Well, okay. So the Georgia Guidestones, I know they were blown up. That's kind of interesting that it happens around this period of time. Whatever. It could have been someone pissed off at them. But the point is, those Guidestones explain.
But come on, dude. Let me stop there for a second. You're telling me that out of the blue they just get destroyed like that? Meanwhile, they've stood for this effing long, and how many people actually like, oh, what wonderful Guidestones you have there? No, everybody's like, fuck the Guidestones, that kind of thing, and everything else, dude. That got destroyed. Now they say there's a rumor, a conspiracy, if you will, that it was struck by lightning and it blew up. I don't know. But wouldn't that be like hand of God? No, F your guide stones. That'd be bad.
I haven't seen. I personally.
Hey, by the way, what's the other rule? What's the rule of the mainstream media? What's the rule of the mainstream media? Let's follow that one. Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story.
Oh, first rule was lie.
Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story, dude. Come on.
Lie your ass off. That's the first rule.
That's for them. They're independent media folk. Come on.
It's nice to hear. I'll tell you what, though, it is nice to hear people like calling out the mainstream like more publicly. The problem is that it gets watered down. People that see that's again what I think Trump was partially useful for. Because he's so bombastic.
He had the media side of himself.
Right. So now when you fake news, now if you're like, well, that they're lying. Oh, what are you, a MAGA idiot Republican MAGA card?
They tie the term to that's right. It becomes identity politics and it's cult of personality. It's all of that.
That's what it was for. It's the basics. See, this is why, like when I started doing radio again, a little over a year ago. Right.
Yeah.
Probably probably almost a year and a half ago now. The reason I started with the back to basic stuff and I went over the basic stuff for like the first 6 or 8 episodes I did was because I knew I was talking to a newer audience that was somewhat awake about this, but they really didn't know the basics. And it's like it'd be like going from the civilian world out into the fleet without going through basic training first. I had to cover certain things because people aren't going to understand. And it's not picking on anybody. It's because, of course, you don't. If it hasn't been brought up, there's a whole newer generation of quote unquote truth speakers. And I'm doing air quotes when I say that, Joe. So you know I'm being a sarcastic a-hole when I say it. Okay. There are people out there that our generation came and we kind of like laid the groundwork, and then actually like Mae Brussell.
We were
going all the way back to like the 60s laid the groundwork.
Yeah, but our generation was kind of like we were the generation that harnessed the internet to forward.
Yes, we were the ones that started the internet part of it. Yes, we used the technology to do what they had been doing. But like Mae Brussell, Penn Jones Jr., those people going back to the Kennedy assassination in the 60s.
And they did it all in university libraries and going to play.
She did it with periodicals, like newspapers, magazines, and a tape recorder. Yeah. Mae Brussell was the bomb.
A bomb.
I play her old stuff. I have some of her old stuff on YouTube. And years ago, the guy that runs her archives gave me a copy of her entire archive to air. And over the course of time, I'm going to do that, especially when I have surgery. I'm going to be editing up and airing some of Mae's classic broadcasts for the listeners. You're going to, especially because she was, the stuff she's talking about is back in the 70s and the 80s. A lot of the stuff I'm going to play, and you hear it, and this is 40, 50 years ago. And then now you fast forward to where we are today, and you're like, oh my God, this lady was right. And there was no Google back then. There was newspapers, some magazines, and her own intuition to read between the lines and see that they were lying. And she knew who she was talking about. She did some epic shows, but they were well researched before they came on. Then our generation picked up from them, and we had this digital explosion where we were able to get stuff on YouTube and Live Leak at the time, and Facebook or Twitter or whatever else, websites. And now you have, and then after us came another generation where they were into the YouTube thing, but live streaming wasn't a thing yet. And that generation is where of researchers is where they lost a lot of the information. They researched like the top 3% and started doing radio shows or started doing podcasts. And they hadn't spent, you need to spend 20 years in a hole researching, but they really hadn't read a lot of stuff, and they went by YouTube videos. So now they're taking this 3% of info and they're running around with it and spewing it out. And now that 3% led to the current live streamers that we have, and they give you like 0.3 of that 3% of information.
Oh, so no doubt.
Like there's a lot of misinfo or non-understanding of basic stuff. And that's why even now, I still play old school documentaries. Bro, you know how much stuff I've archived over 20 years. It's ridiculous. I mean,
you're like what was it on the what was that? Ready Player One. Yeah, you're the butler dude. You're the archivist or whatever. That's you. Just saying.
Well, I mean, that's where I started archiving this stuff years ago, because when I found it on Google Video, that's how long
you
ago
just had a
this is.
propensity you got in the habit of that because you have a propensity to be taken down. See, that's why.
Well, I first saw the info and I was like, this is not, how is this up? Download, and then I started putting my own stuff up, and my stuff would just be poof. I mean, I've lost, people complain my YouTube channel's demonetized, bro. I've had entire YouTube channels with like
vaporized.
Just I one channel, I had like 75,000 subscribers. They just vaporized it, the push of a button. Poof. No arguing, no appealing it. They just took it away. They censor info, and that goes back to the Ron Paul. We were talking about the Ron Paul purge of 2008 earlier, right? Yeah, that's pretty much what it would sound like. People be like, oh, how come? Now, if you go to DTRH Radio Archives, one of the channels where this is live streaming currently, some of my older shows, I still get messages, hey, man, how come your show has no audio? And I'm I don't know. Take a guess why my show has no audio.
It's so ridiculous now. They find so many ways to do it that, you just get, oh, yeah, it's just a glitch. Sure, yeah, it's a glitch. That's the problem, is like you just never know. And they've throttled this stuff back for years, but there's tools out there that people are using now to kind of help get it out. The AI is definitely working in favor of us too sometimes,
No, there are people out there that are helping, but you have like Twitter. I mean, obviously, if Musk buys it, maybe, well, who knows? There's so much drama there. But you got, what's his name? Parang Tawang, whatever the hell his name is, the CEO there that's in charge now that Dorsey's gone. He hates freedom of speech. The chick, what's Wojcicki or whatever her name is, the one that runs YouTube, freedom of speech, can't have that. I mean, the WHO was like, I love how the CDC is like, oh, now everything that we talked about, remember we couldn't talk about poor Kev Baker got demonetized for months because we had conversations about COVID-19.
Because we said a bad word.
Kevin was disabled. He had lung problems, which is obviously what eventually led to his passing. He could only work doing live streams. That's why he busted his ass. That dude was disabled, could barely breathe, and would do like 3 or 4 live streams a day to pay his bills. And YouTube demonetized him because we said COVID or something evil that was bad. See, now you can mention it and YouTube won't do it. The other day, they just announced that, oh yeah, you can talk about the ineffectiveness of certain things. And it's like, wait, how come we can talk about it now? Why? Oh, because we were correct. But when we would have been right 2 years ago, it would have maybe made a dent in something.
Hey, I got something for you. Let me share this real quick. This is an interesting article that I saw, and definitely exactly what you're saying. So what they're saying is U.S. government data confirms a 143,233% increase in cancer cases due to, I won't even say it. I'm so programmed. Oh, so terrible. But anyway, cancer begins when genetic changes interfere with the normal replication and replacement of cells in the body. Now, let me just back that up for a second. So there's this thing called CRISPR-Cas9, right? Because that's what we're going to call, for lack of a better term, that's what we're going to call this, right? Because that's what it really is. See, back in 2018, there was a TED Talk, and I've referenced it in the past, maybe a couple weeks back, talking about gene drives and how that works. And it's centered around mRNA technology, which is, again, CRISPR-Kit, which is genetic scissors. Of course, RNA is the instructions to your DNA to be able to do what it does. So when they say, well, we're not manipulating DNA, that's a really, 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 that's a stretch. We'll put it that way. A super stretch of the truth. Are they? Yes, they are. Of course they are. And it's because they're changing the instructions going to the DNA, but they're modifying the RNA. So that's what they're kind of
right. And so people get like how you could change instructions like that. They're like, wait, I don't understand how you could do that. I know they make it sound, I'll put it in like an easy to understand format, we're computers, right?
Yep.
Our brains are biological computers, and our bodies are run by the biological computers. Our bodies are biochemical machinery, and you can reprogram the machinery with DNA. Okay, because DNA is like a storage drive. They've admitted this years ago. They were talking about being able to download information into people's DNA strands. Your DNA strand, our DNA strands are like a thumb drive.
It's like a thumb drive.
So all they have to, what they're doing is genetically going in and they're changing the programming on that thumb drive to make your DNA do whatever they want it to do. And
That's
you start seeing, let me ask you a question, Joe. Let me ask you something. If this stuff was so safe, if CRISPR technology and dicking around with gene splicing was so safe to just start doing it in the general public, why is there a sudden rise in instant death on every level across
I couldn't tell you.
all age groups?
No idea.
They all have one glaring thing in common, but you can't
Climate
blame
change.
that. I've seen articles blaming heat. I've seen articles blaming exercise. I love myocarditis can be caused by exercise. What?
It's the most ridiculous. Here's the problem. Here's the problem.
And strokes in 6-year-old children are perfectly normal, Joe.
Here's the problem. They can't dumb people down to the public school systems because now people are homeschooling in record numbers, right? So that didn't work. And the internet, unfortunately, educated a lot of people that decided to go down the rabbit hole and figure things out. So now they're stuck because they're saying this stuff. And yes, are people trusting to a certain extent? Sure, some are, but a lot know now, and they see it. It's glaring. It's terrible. So yeah, this is a problem. And
right, and they're racist for that. That's why. That's why they're all racist.
Okay, right. Yeah, that's exactly right. Because think about this. Back in the 60s, Dr. Mary's monkey. You had the SV40 virus that came.
I'm talking about that, Joe. Stop it.
But I'm just saying,
polio's coming back. Go get your shot.
Oh,
you've seen that, right? That's the new thing. They're like, polio's coming back. Go get your vaccine. And I'm like, SV40 virus. Google it. This is, remember, we were talking to Kevin McCarran, and I was like, have you guys ever heard of Mary's Monkey? And he was like, what's Mary's Monkey? And I was like, oh, people need to read that book. Ed Haslam wrote a very, very informative book called Dr. Mary's Monkey. And there's another book by Judith Barry Baker that goes along with it called Me and Lee. You need to read, if you read Me and Lee, and then it explains Lee Oswald is who Lee is. And Judith Baker was Lee Oswald. He was her handler. They also ended up being lovers. But she explains about her time when she was in New Orleans working at Tulane University with Dr. Mary Sherman on, she was told, a cure for cancer, and then it ended up they were actually weaponizing cancer.
I know. Again, don't let the facts get in the way of a good story.
But then, of course, on the day that Gaten Fonzie, an investigator for the Warren Commission,
you're not talking about Happy Days, are you?
He came. No, not that Fonzie.
Okay, just checking.
Gaten Fonzie was a World War II veteran, and he was a investigator for the Warren Commission, where he was sent by them. And he was a real investigator. And some of the people that he went to go interview in New Orleans ended up, Mary Sherman died. And they found her, but of course it was they said it was a robbery and a sexual assault. They found her with her one arm burned completely off.
Like a Gary Webb death.
Stabbed multiple times, although she was stabbed post-mortem. So that's interesting. You got to read the book. There's a lot more to it. Then there was also George de Mohrenschildt, who was one of Oswald's handlers. And just before, about an hour before he was to meet with Gaten Fonzie, he shot himself with a shotgun. But that happened all the time. Interesting. Judith actually shared me a piece of audio years ago, and it was a recording. De Mohrenschildt's mother-in-law wanted to watch a soap opera, and they had to leave the house that day, and she didn't want to miss her soap. Right. So she took an old tape recorder and she hit record and had it recording the audio. It was an old cassette recorder and had it recording the audio of the show. And in it, you hear the alarm in the house go off. and then you hear a noise like someone walking in, and you hear the shotgun go off. So it was always interesting. Like, they had an old school alarm on the house, and the old school, you hear the old alarm like go off in the background. And yes, they did have alarms on houses back then, ladies and gentlemen. They weren't ADT, but it was, remember the foil tape?
Sure.
We had one at my house growing up. It was built in the 50s, and it was such a piece of crap. The wind would blow and the window would rattle and it would separate, and it had this huge speaker on the front of the house, and it would just set off this blaring klaxon, and it was super embarrassing. You had to have like the police come out and everything else, just like you do now, except it wasn't ADT all quiet. It was everybody in your neighborhood knew, because your house was that.
Before there were like IR sensors and stuff. It was just all window and door switches, and
it was literally just like aluminum tape on the window.
Switches,
yeah. And when you close it, the switch would click, it'd create a circuit, and everything was fine. You jarred the window a little bit, it would break the circuit, and it would trigger the alarm.
Yep.
I mean, old school way of getting around that. I'm sure people have seen Beverly Hills Cop. You see Eddie Murphy take like a gum wrapper, and it's an aluminum foil gum wrapper, and he folds it up so it's all foil, and he shifts it in there and opens the window, and the alarm doesn't go off. That's how easy those pieces of crap were to get around. But that was what we had back in the day. Anyway. So since we're talking about the New World Order and all this stuff, right? I mean, it's going on in front of everyone's face. I keep bringing up Aaron Russo from the early 2000s and his interview from 2007 with Jones, where he warned about, Alex Jones sat down with him and he interviewed him and asked him about his time and like how he became known with the Rockefellers. And I've played this. I actually made a screen capture video where I played part of that, and then I showed articles from mainstream sources about RFID chips. And this was when they were still pushing the vaccine passports. And I said, look, they're going to introduce this as they're going to try to find a way to introduce this. Russo said, look, they want to put everything on it, your banking, your access to buildings, everything. And then if you're a bad citizen, they just turn off your chip. So I've been warning about this for years. I've been playing his interview over and over and over and over and over again. The screen capture video I did, it was titled, The Ultimate Goal is to Get Everybody Chipped. YouTube removed it for medical misinformation. And I was like, wait a minute, how is that medical misinformation? I'm using mainstream sources to show you like what they want to do. So I can't play that video again, but what I can show you right now, and I will, is this. And this is from the Daily Mail. This is from the other day. And I remember I said in that video, and I've been saying that they're going to normalize it. See, when it was the COVID passport, it was get your COVID passport, your vaccine passport. And then, oh, by the way, we can add your banking info to it. We can add your medical information to it. We can add everything to it. You won't need to carry your wallet. Even your
just
ID
think about that.
will be attached to it. Oh, isn't that interesting? So now this is from the Daily Mail, and you can see it's August 27th of 2022. So it's just, this is today's date. Okay. And now, and I think this was written on the 19th. So this is only 8 days old. I have this up because it was like last week I found this. It's only 8 days old. So I'm showing the 2 dates. I'm showing the 2 dates to show that today's date, is today. And then this was published 9 days ago. Okay. So I don't want to hear, oh, it's an old article. It has nothing to do. No. Look, Tesla owner unlocks his car with tiny contactless chip he had implanted in his hand. Saying it comes in handy since his phone's Bluetooth doesn't always unlock his phone or unlock his car with his phone. So then it goes on.
But wait. It comes in handy.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Did you see the quotes?
I did.
It actually did quotes. It did for your rim shot. It's so stupid. So I know the writing is. I don't get me even started on copy editing in articles anymore. I'm not like a total grammar tard, but I kind of am. And when I read a sentence and I can't even read the sentence because it makes no sense, like I have to add words that aren't there. Anyway, so it talks about how he had the chip put in, and here's the guy with his stupid face smiling.
Look at that. That's great.
Tell me he doesn't look kind of nefarious right here, doesn't this? I don't know. Would you let your daughter date?
More like,
not any 4 of my girls would be allowed to date this guy. Just saying.
Well, no, I mean, I'm just saying that he appears to be a little nerdy. I'm just that's all. Just first.
Right. So
First,
look, oh, he's getting his little chip inserted. It's just a little medical procedure. Oh, I'm all smiles. And look, I can unlock my Tesla now with my limp wrist. So he puts his little Band-Aid on. Puts his Band-Aid on, right? I'm not the one that pictured I didn't do this. Okay, I didn't tell him to do this, so I'm going to make fun of it. That looks stupid. Do you want to look like you have a broken chicken wing arm going up to unlock your car? No.
Hey.
And I've broken my wrist and my hand, so I can make fun of people with broken hands and wrists. I don't want to hear.
Oh, he's got such nice hands. Why would he do that?
Being ableist. I'm disabled. I'm not ableist.
I just can't get over it. He had such nice hands. He's going to have a scar now.
I know. So he comes in. For me, it comes in handy. No pun intended. Joe Rimshot. Thank you. Stupid joke. So he explains how he's testing it, and he's in a beta group, blah, 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 blah. But then it gets into, remember, I told you they're going to try to normalize this. So it gets into the normalizing part. It explains how he had the chip implanted and why he did it to his front door. Then it says,
wait, let me just add, don't let the facts get in the way of good story. Little did he know that it actually measured and they found out that he actually makes too many. And they had to regulate. They told him what he had to eat.
Right. Well, it probably does. You're releasing too much methane into the planet.
That's right.
Joe. How dare you?
So then the government came in and said, "I'm sorry, my friend, you are doing too much, and as a result, we have to make sure that your diet and change it for the better. So now you have to eat alfalfa sprouts for the next 14 days.
How dare you flush your toilet? It's a Saturday. You're not supposed to flush.
Do that.
You're only supposed to flush on Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays.
That's right.
I now have to send the green police to your house, Joe. I'll make sure
that's terrible.
I send them over to you.
But I mean, that's where it goes. That's where it goes. Just so everybody knows.
Exact. You are correct. Yes, that's where this is going. And a lot of people are going to say you're going to the extreme. Okay. What I'm reading you right now would have been considered, I was told this was extreme and that I was going to the extreme when I mentioned this years ago. So no, we're there. We're not
1984
going to
was extreme, but look at it now.
At the extreme already. So this is the second chip that this guy's had implanted.
Of course.
The first is a key to his home. And also stores his contact card, medical information, and other such items. That chip can be scanned by any cell phone that then reveals the information and glows an eerie green beneath his skin when it's scanned. And then they show it right here. You see him like scanning his hand and he's like, oh, yeah. And then he this is him quoting the guy that got chipped. The whole idea was that I would have my house key in my left hand and my car key in my right hand. And then what's really cool is when it's approved, they can wirelessly activate the new chip I just got to do credit card transactions. What did I tell everybody for the past 10 years? You're kook, Popeye. They're never going to do that. Then when this got brought up in the beginning of COVID, what was the argument, Joe? It was the straw man. What was the straw man argument? They're going to inject nanoparticles into you, which, don't get me wrong, that's a whole separate thing. And I agree that's what they want to do.
Probably already has.
Right. But they used that. See how they went to the far end, the deep end of the conspiracy pool, and they were like, "Oh, these crazy people think they're going to try to put chips in you." So then YouTube said, "Oh, no more chip talk. Can't talk about chips," and they started blocking people. And then I did my video where I was like, "Hey, look at RFID chips. Listen to what Aaron Russo talked about back in 2007. How they want to use what they want to do with RFID chips. Look what they're saying they're going to do now." And tell me, do you see anything that's similar there? And boom, medical misinformation. They removed the video. But look, you're looking right at this article. You're seeing the kid's chip glow in his hand while they talk about how cool it is. Remember, I have to harp on this because I hear people like saying, "Oh, maybe that wouldn't be too bad," right? I mean, you wouldn't have to carry your wallet. Hello, did you listen to anything that Aaron said? You put everything on your chip. What happens when you don't do what they want? They turn off your chip. Well, they would never do that. Have you been around during the pandemic at all?
What was that? That Can series. What was that series with the stacks in the back of in the neck? And
Oh,
Black Mirror
on
Black
HBO.
Mirror?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, and
I
I
want to
can't
say it was
remember
Black
right
Mirror or something. I can't remember, but anyway, everybody's consciousness was on these stacks, and when you died, well, if you had money, you could get another body and just have your transferred. If you didn't have money, you got whatever was left over. But same premise. See, then it becomes control. Well, next thing you know, they're going to figure out a way to screw with the brain and all this other. It's a slope that goes way, I mean, to the bottomless pit. You just keep sliding down. It's terrible. By the way, just quickly on the Judith Baker subject, there's a DC Clothesline piece that came out that basically there was a study that found International Journal of Vaccine Theory, Practice, and Research, the IJVTPR. So that's the journal. And it said that this is looked at blood samples from 1,006 patients who got and who subsequently developed various disorders. What is it?
Shocking. Shocking.
All the patients received it were, either it was the mRNA. So they said that of the 1,000, that the shots contained an array of foreign components described as metallic objects. One of them is believed to be graphene, a conductive metal used in radio frequency electronics. Interesting. And of the 1,006 cases analyzed, a mere 58 of them, or 5.77%, show normal hematology, meaning the blood was healthy. But the other 94.23 came back tainted, loaded with foreign objects of unclear origin. So that's interesting. And it's metallic. Now, it also said 948 cases showed tubular or fibrous formations, and frequently also crystalline and lamellar formations with extremely complex but consistently similar morphologies all across the patients with abnormal blood types. So metallic compounds, graphene oxide, this is crazy, and it's all about like being RF capable. Let's just put it that way.
Our bodies are already antenna.
Right.
So if you look at a DNA,
so they're increasing that signal.
And you're a radio guy, Joe, so you can appreciate this. It's two antennas. It's a circular antenna, and it's a pole antenna, like a whip antenna.
That's right.
There's two different, and sending, receiving. So that's why you can feel vibes from people. They understand it. Can you imagine if we already don't really even have, as a general public, a full understanding of how we interact with electromagnetic frequencies just on our normal,
just scratching the surface,
physical level. Can you imagine you start injecting graphene oxide into people's bodies? And that's also what's tearing people's stuff up. That's the graphene oxide is like tearing things apart on a molecular level. People don't get this, and then suddenly it's not a coincidence that everybody that's gotten a certain thing from a sharp thing
from a certain place,
from a certain place, and made by certain companies during a certain time period within the past few years,
certainly.
And I think everyone knows what we're talking about by this point. It's not surprising that everybody that is suddenly dropping dead, the one thing that they have in common is that they all had this sharp thing happen to them.
Very terrible, very terrible.
And it's funny because they don't want to talk about it. You're not the cause of death could be labeled as anything but related to that.
No doubt. No doubt.
It was Thanos snapped his fingers. That must be the answer.
No doubt.
Thanos got the Infinity Gauntlet.
Well, let's take it a step farther than that. Let's take it a step farther than that. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of binary bioweapons, right? And they come in all shapes and sizes. Well, now you've got that has been a a weapon for quite some time, probably 70, 80 years. They've known basically since World War I. They've had the concept of a binary bioweapon. The polio SV40 thing is considered that because the SV40 virus got kicked into gear when menopause came along, or menopause or whatever. So that idea is not foreign to anybody that's doing this whole developing the lovey-dovey stuff. So now you take this latest incarnation and it's got some traits of frequency type things that could be a trigger. Now, what those triggers are, we don't know, but we see a lot of people dropping dead. Could it be triggered by a frequency or whatever that is? I have a feeling that that has something to do with it. That's just basically just looking at what's happening and drawing a logical conclusion. That's it. So now we take the technology factor into this and we see what's going on there. You also have the whole Neuralink thing happening. That's kind of freaky.
Well, see, now you bring up Neuralink. That brings it right back to this article because it talks about they pump this up using Musk's Neuralink. They talk about how somebody had, ALS. Oh, in July, a 48-year-old patient in New York who was unable to move and speak due to ALS got a permanent brain implant that can let, by the way, here's the copy editing. A permanent brain implant that can let him to communicate telepathically. I'm going to read that sentence to you again. You tell me where the word that doesn't effing belong is in there.
I don't even want to hear it. That is great.
Dude, this is on. I'm going to sidetrack for a second. You people in the mainstream media suck.
The machine needs to learn more. That's all.
No, you know what it is, dude? They don't. There a lot of this is their computers are writing the articles, and we talked about this 7-8 years ago, and now it's machines writing articles. And I mean, did a human read any of this before they put it together, or did the human have a basic education? I mean,
trust the machine.
I went to trade school. I didn't go to college.
Okay? Trust the machine.
I'm self-taught. I'm an autodidact with almost everything I know, and I got my high school education. And I got to tell you what, even having a public high school education and a friggin' brain issue, that sentence irritates me. Sentence irritates the crap out of me.
Now you know me, right? I've been Mr. Fix-It guy for a very long time. So I love the machines. Why? Because if anybody is going to lose their job, I'm going to be one of the last ones because I fixed them robots.
You got to fix the machines.
Dr. Joe now. So Dr. Joe, I like you, Dr. Joe. All right.
Yeah, until they build a robot, Dr. Joe.
That's all right.
Until Skynet becomes fully self-aware, then they don't need us anymore.
I got time. Until then, I'll be the little henchman in the white lab coat.
All I'm gonna say is for people to wonder why I'm against robots the way the way things are, it would be you'd have to explain. You'd have to get into like not only science fiction stories as like a cautionary tale, but you'd have to watch. Which was it, Terminator 4, which is the one with Christian Bale, 3, 4.
Oh man,
right?
I don't know.
Which is the one everybody hated it. It's whatever Terminator, whatever. I think it was 4, where they showed you the modern time right now, where they showed you whenever date it was, like 97 or whatever in the movies when the machines took over. They don't show you just the blast. Like in every movie, they always showed you the nuke explosion.
Oh yeah, you gotta have that. Come on. Oh, it's John in the chat in a YouTube chat said Salvation.
Yes, that's the one. Thank you, John. Thank you, John Creco, over in the chat. Long-time listener. Johnny's a good guy. He's been around forever, since like the Orion days. Yes, he is correct. Terminator Salvation. So whatever 4, 3, whatever the hell number it was, the one with Christian Bale in it. A lot of people didn't like it. I didn't like it. I wanted more Terminator and Linda Hamilton. No, you need to watch that one. First of all, when you watch a film and the general public doesn't get it, there's a message there. So you should go watch it again. Second of all, that film shows you what the robots did. They took over and put humans into what, Joe? Concentration
camps. Yeah, camps.
Yeah. FEMA camps run by executioner robots. Just saying.
Well, so it's funny you say that, right?
So a cautionary tale.
but there that is, right? So then there was also, remember, they have to put out this stuff before it happens. They're somehow on the wackadoodle alien spiritual paranormal side of things, right? The tramp's pocket of existence, like akin to Johnny King and his assless chaps going walking around the campfire and doing his thing. Warlock, they have this rule that they go by, and one of the rules is they got to put out what's going to happen before it does, but there's no rule against how they can kind of gloss it over or hide it or whatever.
Right,
so
that's what entertainment's for.
2012
they tell you what they're going to do to
right
you.
Now 2012 the movie was based on the Chan Thomas classified declassified called the Book of Adam and Eve that the CIA classified, and it was somebody looking into the future using the remote viewing and seeing what it looked like. And 2012 was based on that account, that movie. So that's what they see, and they know that it's probably going to go down like that. But there's some, of course, flair that gets.
It's funny how they always build. You never notice in those movies, the government has like a secret plan going on for years that they hid from everybody. And of course, the arcs that they're building can only hold a certain amount of people, and it's usually only the uber rich and the politicians that get on it, and everyone else is SOL.
Okay, but there's no historical precedent for that, right? Look at all the mountains and all the deep underground military bases that exist. You know, obviously an event like that where you have crustal shift and instant pole shift, you don't want to be underground. Hell, you don't want to be above ground. You don't want to be anywhere within the atmosphere of the planet, which is why I believe there's such a push to get off planet. Because
to go to
Mars. Remember, no, the moon, my friend. Why? Well, because typically these events are accompanied by a micronova or a burst from the sun. See, one thing that scientists realized was, holy crap, novas or supernovas or what we consider novas happen more often than we understood. As a matter of fact, they happen. Stars can pop off multiple times in 100
bad gamma ray burst and we're done.
So the 1858, the Carrington event, was basically the kickstart to this latest, the poles starting to migrate. That was the trigger that said, boop, okay, planet Earth, it's time. Woohoo! And so begins the cycle until one day they get too far, and then it's instant. It's in a day, according to Chan Thomas's book. It is whoop. That's it. It just goes within a day, and so that's kind of where that is. It William H. right there. He says it best. Yeah, Ben Davidson. Ben Davidson has really done a lot of great stuff in researching this and kind of going back and figuring out, holy moly, this is crazy. So here we are. We have this event that's coming. They've kind of put it out there that kind of stuff is going to happen. So one thing they learned was, oh crap, it happens very fast. So feasibly, all you have to do is hitch a ride to the side of the moon that always faces the Earth and wait it out a couple days and come back. Within a month, things are starting to settle. New continents are starting to kind of come into play. Everything is you just have a handful of people and you start over again.
You think that's what happened to the buildings on the moon the first time?
I do.
When was it Tranquility Base right off not too far from Tranquility, or was it further into the dark side? I can't remember. It's been a while.
No, it's the dark side of the moon.
You know what I'm talking about? The shard.
Yeah, but it was right. It was right on the edge, and that's where they saw all those particles. That showed that, holy crap, man, the moon got absolutely cooked. How did that happen? You know, it wasn't like an incoming supernova from another galaxy. It was nothing like that. It's because the sun pops off every 6,000 years or so.
Right. So see, this is what I mean. this is like an important thing to focus on, right? And instead, we kill each other over whose piece of sand was gifted to us by the holy real estate agent. Stupid.
Right. So the idea is, so let me do this real quick. Let me just show you this, because this is fascinating stuff. And this is another thing I dove down to, because it's very important that you understand the whole thing. Even the escape plan. It's crazy. So let's see. I got that. Okay. Let's go to NASA, because NASA, of course, on Monday is launching Artemis 1, and that's the moon mission. It's going to be up there, I think, 6 weeks. And it's the biggest test flight. It's the largest rocket we've ever built, the Space Launch System. And it says the first launch is another step in the blueprint of our sustainable exploration of the solar system, you see. Sustainable, yes. And the reason why is because they're using liquid oxygen, liquid hydrogen. There's no fuel that has to be really man-made. The reason is because they want to develop a base on the moon so that they can refuel using water, that they find water ice, that they can use electrolysis, break it into the two components. It's obviously cold out in the vacuum of space, so they have no problem with the cryogenic side of things. So all they got to do is basically collect it. Same thing on Mars. So they're trying to do this in a very smart kind of way, which I get. So the idea is Musk is working on his rocket, right? His rocket is not as big as this, let's just say, as far as the, oh, look at that. Isn't that nice? Let's just expand that for a second. Oh boy. Oh, that's some serious rocket porn right there, if I've ever seen it. Oh, yeah. But see, that rocket has a very limited payload for all of the things that it's doing. So what's Musk doing? His Starship is going to go up into orbit of Earth to a Starship tanker. And that Starship tanker is going to go and refuel that Starship. But that Starship can carry 150 tons of cargo. So you fill it full of robots that go over and construct the base before the humans get there. And then you can do that with 150 tons of cargo and you're just sending Starship after Starship, and all it takes is water to fuel it. Well, hey, that sounds pretty cool. The idea is to put that base in a safe zone so that when that happens, you shoot out and you go back, and that's it. And it's a race to the finish, so they say. And you can tell that things are getting bad. On my show in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to have Skip Hailstone from Life Below Zero on Discovery, because if anybody knows subsistence living and how the global changes, the earth changes that are happening are affecting his ability to provide for his family, something that's been done for generations, like the migration patterns of caribou, or the moose population, or even more important, the salmon population has been absolutely decimated up there. So, I mean, it's crazy. And it's all, a lot of it's climate change. So these people here who depend on that to live, they're putting fish wheels in the water and they're doing it, but there's only but so many people up there. And it used to be okay. Now it's not. So you have very restricted, if you're even allowed to fish at all on a lot of these rivers. It's very tough, very tough. So he's going to get into that a little bit. And what
climate change help. The climate is changing. It's
totally.
Not from cow farts or your SUV. No. It's, those lines in the sky that you see, that they've convinced everybody again that don't exist. It's amazing. Everyone's so busy arguing about their pronouns and whether pronouns are a thing and whether there's really 100 genders or not. It's funny. It's almost like they've got them distracted. They've gotten society so distracted with nonsensical bullshit that they're not looking up. And if they looked up, they would see what's going on. They
look at this.
Clearly see what's going on.
Look at Jay Watt. He just brought up the Dumbs, which is true. You know, you take a look at the Ozarks and all of the fortresses that are built in the Ozarks, as well as the amount of money that's in the Ozarks, is unbelievable. And you have to remember, there's not everybody that can have a rocket and go to the moon. So you're going to have people that are going to hunker down and do that. Now, remember back in the 70s, there was that map that came out that said, "Whoa, when this happens, boy, I think we know where the safe zones are." And they made that map. Well, one of those places supposedly is the Ozarks. So that's why you see all those people flocking there, you know?
Yeah, I'm going to have beachfront property. Right now, I live in the Florida woods, but according to
you're
the
so
map, I'm going to have
screwed.
beachfront property.
You're so screwed, dude. You're going to have a 2-mile high freaking tidal wave just eat you up. And same here. It's
That's
either that
cool.
or
I live like 70 miles inland.
Yeah, or the 1,000-mile-an-hour winds will get us. One way or the other, dude. We're kaput.
I'm not, whatever, bro. Bring it. I'll be like in that movie. What was it? Sudden Impact or Deep Impact? No, Sudden Impact.
No. We're wearing squirrel suits.
Deep Impact was the one with the asteroid.
Suits. What do you think?
You know where they're standing? Where the one, what's her name? Tia Leone. Her and her father are like hugging each other on the beach as the tidal wave comes in.
Oh yeah.
I'll be giving up the.
I'll
be like, woo!
Same here, dude. Cannonball.
You know, in 2012 when what's his name? Woody Harrelson. He's
that's me. That's definitely
radio host. That'll be me going out. That's
I'm gonna be right there on that volcano, baby.
I'm not. I don't have any grand delusions that I'm like gonna race. I'm gonna be a limo driver who races outraces the end of the world in a limo, and then just happens to get aboard an old what are they? The Tupolev, those big airplanes. Didn't Russia just blow up a bunch of them? So I guess we're not going to at war with Russia.
There was only one.
Can't rely on the Russian connection now. So
there was only one of those, and they blew that up. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're all screwed now. Good job.
Oh, we're effed.
Good job, Russia. Thanks a lot. This is why humanity can't have nice things. It's all Putin's fault.
The Putin, he did it again. He's just a freaking useful idiot. And again, you know, it's all about. Bro. It's just all narrative shit. None of this.
Wait, you mean to tell me that? You mean to tell me that Vladimir Putin is not like the ultimate he's not Cobra Commander from G.I. Joe in the 80s? What do you mean?
Dude, Vladimir Putin just likes to have rich things and fancy things. And
I thought Osama bin Laden.
That's what he likes. That's all he likes. And he'll do whatever he has to do to maintain it.
I thought bin Laden was the bad guy. It's weird because suddenly he's not the bad guy anymore. And we give his family all these lucrative construction contracts in the Middle East every time we invade someone's country and blow things to hell. The U.S. Embassy in Iraq. Who do you think built that? Well, Halliburton, Popeye. Right. Who did Halliburton subcontract out to? Bin Laden Construction.
My.
That same bin Laden family that supposedly was the dastardly mastermind of the 9/11 terror attacks.
After all,
yeah,
it's a small world. Come on, everybody.
Him and his Dell laptop in a cave with a sat phone.
With his kidney, his dialysis.
On dialysis. He had Marfan syndrome. He's getting dialysis, but that's fine. I want to know how he avoided U.S. Special Forces and the CIA commandos that went out there to kill him in the days following 9/11 when they were running around the mountains of Tora Bora. How is it that he was able to get away? You know, the John Woo style gunfight that they have, you know, the story, the official version, he was fighting and escaping with his men. It gives me this vision of bin Laden leaping over rocks with his dialysis machine in tow as he's trying to drag it out of the entrance in his mountain cave hideout.
Because Hitler killed himself in his bunker.
Here.
Hitler killed himself in his bunker.
Dude. Right. And and good old Adolf shot himself in the head too.
Yeah.
Sure he
and then lived the rest of his life. And then somehow, some way, he just lived the rest of his life in South America.
Right. The History Channel went over to Russia and tested the bone that they have over there, the jawbone that was supposedly his. Oh, and it was a female. Oh. And so I guess that wasn't that guy with the mustache.
There was a great, I think it was Chasing Hitler or something like that.
Yep.
On Netflix. Oh man, was that freaking fabulous.
And not the Nazi rat lines. Oh, I'm not supposed to say that name, but I just got every channel shut down. The rat lines, they were run through the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church helped them escape into South America.
Gave them their papers, yeah.
Yeah. Why was Mengele down in South America? You know, there's a village down in South America even though that everyone's Spanish down there and they have darker skin and
No, they
usually
have
like
huge
brown
German
hair
presence
and
down
brown
there for
eyes,
years.
amazingly, the kids in this village, Joe, even to this day, there are kids born with blonde hair and blue eyes.
There's still majority German villages over there to this day. Yeah.
Weird. It's almost like there was some sort of genetic experimentation going on.
Well, it didn't even go to that far. They all escaped to South America. Most of them did. When all the Nazis fled, did I say that again? Damn it.
Yeah, when they all
fled, they had their rat lines, but a lot of them assumed different identities because what the Catholic Church would do was give them baptismal papers. And then they would take that and they would go get a passport because they would have a different identity. And then they would go and they would just travel legally to their place of destination. But it was the Catholic Church that facilitated all that in many areas through those rat lines. Yeah.
They were being good Catholic boys.
Hey,
that's why.
At that point in time, think about how many useful idiots there were. And that's not to make any excuse, of course, but how many useful idiots have there been for America? And
a lot.
And to hold the henchmen accountable like that, I get it, but then again,
they're free humans, right? So everyone, if you go by the free choice, they should be held accountable for their actions and taking part in it. But see, our government always wants the buck to stop there. Get mad at this one individual. It's
right. That's what I'm saying. Right. It's just because they're just fall guys, but the real people, they got away with it.
Joe Biden is a perfect example. Do you think our current president is really running anything right now?
Come on.
No, when he does make a decision, it's a cluster F. So no, he's surrounded by advisors. He may get pissy and slam his hand on the table and say, I'm the president. And then they kind of have to do what he wants. But there's been repeated times where they've done things, his administration, the White House has done things that he then, makes like they call it, he's verbally fumbling again. Cause he says, he got mad. They corrected something he said. I forget what it was. It was probably about Putin or starting World War III or whatever the hell he was trying to do at the moment because he can't tie his own shoes. But he said something and they came out and corrected it. And then he got pissed and angry that they corrected it. And he even made a public comment when someone had asked him about it. And he was like, no, blah, blah, blah. I still stand by what I said. And I can't remember right now what it was, but it was like one of his verbal cluster Fs. And he's not in charge. He's not running things.
Bush wasn't in charge.
Obama, he's not in charge.
He wasn't really in charge.
None of them were. They get told what to do.
Although down in the basement,
Christina pointed something out to me. She saw, and I don't know where he was being interviewed, but maybe he was being interviewed on Jimmy Fallon or something. But he was being interviewed by somebody. It might have been one of these I think it was one of these late night shows. And he said that if he could, behind the scenes, sit in sweatpants and a t-shirt in a room somewhere and speak to some president through an earpiece and direct things, that he would gladly do that. And he would not have a problem doing that. He would gladly run the country for a third term. What do you think he's doing? I mean, you can't tell me you don't think Obama's involved. Well, he's not at the White House. He doesn't have to be. He's got a fortress in his house that they just built a whole security, wall. They built a guard shack. Now he's got another house out in the Hamptons where he's got a 2,000-gallon propane tank. So, do I know for a fact, do I have evidence that I can say, I know for a fact Obama's running things? No, but when you have people like Valerie Jarrett, who's still in there, you don't see her publicly anymore, do you? No, she brought too much attention. So they have her still working in the Biden administration, just in the background, but she's there. Or Victoria Nuland, another one. They don't show her too much. But they bring her out once in a while, but she's working really behind the scenes. Those are the people, a lot of the people that were involved in the Obama administration are back in the Biden administration. So
nothing to see there. Yeah.
Yeah. Who do you think's running things? I honestly think I would not. I think Christina's right. I think, she brought this up to me a couple weeks ago, probably even longer than that now, about that interview. And it makes a lot of sense, because he's not running things. So it's well, okay, who in his cabinet is running things? And it's like, maybe Barack is sitting somewhere in a room with headphones on a laptop, and he's got an Ethernet connection or whatever, and he's piped into, Joe's ear. And when Joe's out trying to do stuff or trying to get stuff done, or even he doesn't have to be there all the time. He just has to be there at the right time. Because Biden's not running.
Puppet too, though, man. I mean, come on. It's like a puppet running the puppet.
Right. Well, I mean, right. But that puppet, Obama, although he's not good at giving speeches, he was a well-learned individual, and he was a smart man in that he read certain books and he subscribes to certain theories. And I like when it was brought up to him while he was campaigning in 2008 about his membership in the Council on Foreign Relations.
Right.
And he was like, oh, I think I've spoken there before. No, you're a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, liar. Don't lie. We know what you are. Okay. And the Council on Foreign Relations, ladies and gentlemen, a lot like Aaron Russo had discussed this, again, going back to that video, that interview I've played. He talked about how not everybody in the Council on Foreign Relations is evil. They actually think what they're doing is the right thing. Remember, you don't need everybody on board. You need a crew that is on board with your vision, but they all don't have to know every little last thing. It's compartmentalization, like Leslie Groves did during the Manhattan Project when they were building the atomic bomb. Each man only knows what they need to know.
That goes back
and nothing more. That is it.
That goes back. Wow, that goes back kind of far. Can I got to share this because, this is right up your alley too. But I actually have a slide from my history of the New World Order, right? And on that slide is Albert Pike, of course, one of the founding fathers of secret societies in a way. Not so much a founding father, but certainly very influential.
He was one of the founders of the Ku Klux Klan, Joe.
Well, I guess, yeah, he's a founding father. So January 22nd, 1870, in a letter to Italian revolutionary leader Giuseppe Mazzini, Albert Pike, Sovereign Grand Commander, he says, of the southern jurisdiction of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, I love that, announces the establishment of a secret society within a secret society. You see, we must create a super rite, which will remain unknown, to which we will call those Masons of the high degree of whom we shall select. About our brothers in Masonry, these men must be pledges to the strictest secrecy. Through this supreme rite, we will govern all Freemasonry, which will become the one international center, the more powerful because its direction will be unknown. This ultra secret organization is called the new and reformed Palladian Rite. This is why about 95% of the men involved in Masonry don't have a clue as to what the objectives of the organizations are. They just think it's a place to get cheap drinks, but that's the whole point.
Right? He called them the blue degrees.
That's right. You have
guys that joined Freemasonry to give out toys to kids and stuff. They're the blue degrees. The inner degrees, they took the Illuminati took Freemasonry and they hid inside of a secret society. So they took a secret society and they needed to hide from persecution. And what better of a place to hide but in the middle of an already secret society? So they created the Illuminati degrees or the Illuminati rights. And that's why they go up. As you go up the degree ladder there, once you get to a certain level, you're told what the real deal is. You're not. Your third degree Master Mason uncle is not part of the conspiracy. He's in the blue degrees. That's why when you see those guys, well, Masonry, you conspiracy tards, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm a Freemason, and I'll tell you what, I don't subscribe to that kind of nonsense. Oh, you don't? Did you take a blood oath though? Because I know Masons, and every Mason I know did take that blood oath to get their throat slit if they ever released any information. So that's kind of weird. I mean, if I join an organization, like if Joe, you had an organization, you wanted me to join your group, right? And you're like, hey, by the way, there's just one thing. You have to take an oath that you'll allow us to slit your throat if you ever talk about any of our secrets. I'd be like,
I'd have a problem with
about this for a second.
Yeah. Right. So AC Griffith was one of my co-hosts many moons ago. And he was an old man when he did it, right? But Griff was a Mason, and he
was a smart mofo.
Yeah, he sure was, but he got ridiculed like endlessly over that. Oh, you're a Mason. And he used to say, come on, boys, it's just a place to go to socialize and get cheap drinks. You know, you ring knock a little bit. His wife was a judge. And it was almost like, well, if you're with the judge, then you got to be part of the bet. You got to be in there. But that's what it was. It was going golfing, and it was this and that. It was stupid, right? Because he never had any interest in going anywhere within that organization outside of utilizing its resources at the bottom level for the chattel. But the chattel is who really funded the efforts and the endeavors. So you take a look at something, say like Denver International Airport, and wow. I mean, it's just a pretty. People say, well, what that plaque doesn't mean anything. The fact that it was built by the Masons and this and that and everything else. Oh yeah, yeah. Believe what your eyes see and what you hear. You know that it's a messed up place, and there's definitely layers to that. But it's all done by a very select few people. Like, for example, the mainstream media. It's really controlled by about 5 people. I mean, there's thousands upon thousands of people that work for them, but they're just henchmen and henchwomen.
Certain people in certain positions of power to control things, and that's that. It. And they understand that. And when people are like, "But our government is so inept," no, they're not. No, they're not. See, that's the con.
People within the government are
pretend to be stupid because they understand that if you pretend to be stupid, people will expect less of you. So people are like, oh, the government is so dumb. I can't believe they can't get this right or they can't get that right. No, they're not dumb. Yes, there are dumb people and dumb decisions made for sure.
Totally. Right.
But they're not dumb. They know what they're doing. They want you to think that they're so inept that they can't tie their own shoes. Now, in the case of Joe Biden, he actually is inept, but the people behind him are not. And
no, they're not.
Is what the deal is. Okay.
Yeah, the Susan Rices and all them.
These people are not as stupid as you think they are. They're not. And I know everyone loves to say, well, government's so useless. Government literally means, if you translate the word, okay, government is a tool, right? But if you actually translate the word government, it breaks down into Latin into 2 words, a verb and a noun. Govern, which means to control, like governance, govern. And ment comes from mentis, which means mind. So to control the mind is literally what the word government translates to. I'm not making this up. This is why they want to change the meanings of words. And if you go and you actually study the root causes or the roots of words and the root words and meanings of where these things came from, you'll understand this stuff. But this is not something you're going to learn from watching a 2-minute video on YouTube or even listening to this broadcast wherever you're listening to it. You have to do the research. You have to, or you're not going to stand a chance. When I say you have to, it doesn't mean because I'm telling you to do it. If you want to have an understanding of what's going on right now, you have to. There is no more, well, maybe you could take 5 minutes. No, you need to educate yourself now, or you don't stand a chance as to understand or even stand up to anything that's going on around you. You don't. And I'm not picking on you. By the way, to bring up Pike, interesting crap. I don't know did they actually tear down his statue? I know when they were tearing down statues, we brought up, and I said to you one day on a live stream we were doing, I said, wouldn't it be funny if they tore a statue down? And somebody brought up Pike's history.
Somebody brought it up, but it quickly
I don't think they ever tore the statue down, did they?
No.
So why is there a statue to a Satanist? And the guy was he bathed in blood. He did like sexual rituals in the woods and would bathe in blood and stuff. I mean, this is all, when you research who Pike was, you'll find out. Okay. They named Pike's Peak after him in Colorado, but why is there a statue to the guy who helped found the Ku Klux Klan? Okay. And he was a Confederate Civil War general. Why is there a statue to him outside the Department of Justice in Washington, D.C.? That's kind of weird.
That's a great question.
Why is there a statue venerating such a piece of crap? I
have a quote from him about that. And just so everybody, okay, let me do this.
What about his own statue?
Yeah, well, I got a picture of his statue just because, I like to stare at it and just.
I know you've got it on your desktop on your computer.
That's it. Exactly right. Now you're getting it.
Joe named his computer Albert Pike.
That's right. Pike Vision.
That's why it doesn't work right.
That's Pike Vision. Yeah. See, there's his little statue. It's right outside the National Archives in Washington, D.C. If you ever want to go look at it, that's him. Hey, how you doing, buddy? So on July 14th, 1889, Albert Pike issues instructions to the 23 Supreme Councils of the world. He reveals who is the true object of Masonic worship. He says, to you, sovereign grand instructor generals, we say this, that you may repeat it to the brethren of the 32nd, 31st, and 30th degrees. The Masonic religion should be by all of us initiates of the high degrees, maintained in the purity of the Luciferian doctrine. Boop, there it is.
Right. So now that same guy in that same letter to Giuseppe Manzini, he wrote a treatise about, and this has been argued. I know many of good researchers have looked into this over the years, and I've debated over this subject whether or not it was real. I've done plenty of shows about it. I wrote an article about it a long time ago on Federal Jack that went uber viral, and it was called Albert Pike and the Three World Wars. And it explains this idea, and people could say it's fake or whatever, but his letters to Manzini were real, and supposedly
they were real, dude.
Manzini was also real, and this treatise that he wrote, and he basically described how they were going to bring about the three world wars: World War I, World War II, and World War III. And when you read this treatise on it, you see that the way that they described they were going to do it, the way that they described World War I, and how that what their goal was to be achieved from that,
sounds a lot like Wesley Clark.
Happened the way they wanted it, but they didn't get the League of Nations, which they wanted. So then World War II happened, and what did we get out of World War II? The United Nations, right? And then World War III was going to be brought about by pitting, and it even says this, they were going to pit the Jews and the Arabs against each other and have them wipe each other out.
Well, stay tuned.
And gee, that's kind of funny. What have we seen in the Middle East going on for, I don't know, 30 years at least?
Well, there's
always close to World War III, right? Always. I mean, since World War II, actually, we've been close to World War III in that situation.
There is of course, the Iran nuclear treaty, the one that Trump pulled out of. So there's talk now of entering into it again. And of course, Israel's like, no, catastrophic, boo, 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 yuck, yuck, yuck. And they basically just came out today and said, if they go about signing that, our operations are not going to stop. If anything, they're going to intensify. So, I mean, if that's the case, then yeah, I would imagine that tensions would even increase in the Middle East even more than they are.
Well, think about this for a second. What's more plausible if you look at all the chaos, that all this chaos that's going on just so happens to coincidentally continue to push the agenda that we've warned about along? Or the other way to look at it is it's happening on purpose, which that's the conspiracy angle. A good history professor told me years ago that there's two ways to look at the world. There's two different angles to look at the events in the world happen. There's either coincidence theory or conspiracy theory. And if you're educated, conspiracy theory actually makes more sense and follows Occam's razor more than coincidence does. Because, I mean, come on.
I'm not a big fan of quinky dinks.
No, I mean, I know sometimes a coincidence can happen here or there, but not the way, like on 9/11,
right.
How do three different separate levels of security around Washington not stop a quote unquote plane from hitting the Pentagon, even though there's never been any video footage released of it, except for some shitty still frame that the plane passed. You don't see anything but like a puff of smoke And they go, well, the plane was traveling so fast, you missed it in between the frames of the video footage. What?
They got really lucky too that they were able to get away with it to that extent.
Well, people bought it. Video cameras also at the time, the technology was crappier, so people bought it. But if you've noticed,
that's what I'm saying. There was the last opportunity.
The company that supplies cameras around the world to all these important places where things happen, it must be the same one company that makes these cameras. And man, I don't know if they're like Wish level type of company where you order one thing and get another, you know, or I don't know who's making these cameras. Maybe China's making them dirt cheap or something, and they're just crap. None of these cameras seem to work, Joe. I mean, everybody's camera, from the cameras, the traffic cameras when Diana was killed in her accident, to the cameras on 9/11, to the cameras, the cameras in Jeffrey Epstein's holding cell. I mean, it's amazing how
they don't make them like they used to.
They don't work. I mean, I don't know. I'm thinking about opening up our own camera company.
Oh,
and you and I should just open up a camera company. You're good at sales, bro. You can
reliable cameras.
We'll go out. We'll get the cameras going. They never fail. They never stop working.
Catch the conspiracy.
And the problem is, we'll never get a government contract.
Camera company. Ooh,
right? The conspiracy camera company. Okay, and the problem is, we'll never get a contract with any government agency.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Ever.
But then there's because again, this thing has many layers. So then there's private corporations, right? But yeah, they're the ones that are also driving policy and society to.
You mean like Blackwater? I mean Z or whatever the hell they're called now.
Or all these other.
Monsanto bought them. Oh wait, Monsanto changed its name. What is Monsanto's name now?
Disney World or Disney.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. So Disney.
That's right.
Yeah, Disney has their own secret army. That's
what I'm saying. It's like it doesn't matter. You can't escape it. You think you can, you can't. And everything's corrupt. Well, guess what? Here's the funny thing. Like for all you biblical junkies out there, what happened pre-flood? Everything was corrupt. Well, guess what? Okay. So here we are. We're at that time. Guess what? Everything's corrupt. Guess what's going to happen? All right. Hey, it's a cyclical thing, dude. It's going to happen. So what do you do? The best thing you can do, I think, is to
play Fallout 4.
Dial back capability. Have the dial back.
Get an Xbox and play Fallout 4 to practice.
Oh, dude, totally. But even more so is
I think I'm joking. I'm not.
No, I'm not. I don't think you're joking at all.
Go get an Xbox, get Fallout 4 the video game, and play it because it teaches you how to craft weapons, body armor.
Exactly. Johnny Krakow said, "Own yourself." Yeah, that's a great start. Own yourself. Just make things simple. And the other thing is, you're not going to avoid it, so don't try. Just go with the flow.
Well, I'm a believer in quantum physics, and
just assimilate.
People used to ask me about this, and they used to say, "Popeye, do you really think we're going to be like, is it going to be like Avengers Endgame?" Where, all of a sudden, Joe, by the way, Joe would be Captain America. I've told Joe this before. If we were all Avengers, Joe was Captain America. Kev was always Iron Man. He was Tony Stark because he was the sci-fi nerd, and he was
he was a brain
in him to be Tony Stark. He was totally Tony Stark. I was Thor, and Scotty is Doctor Strange because he's the master of the mystic hacking arts and Photoshop arts. So Joe would be standing there with his shield, his cracked shield, ready to face Thanos and his army. And he's going to, all of a sudden he's going to hear on your left. And all these portals are going to open up. And we're all going to come flying through the portals. And I don't think it's going to be like that. I think it would be cool if we could all stand like that together in a big fight and kick the crap out of the New World Order, right? That'd be cool. I'd gladly fight Thanos if it meant that
Thunderdome all the way. I'd be in there. Chainsaws, pikes, you name it. Bring it.
Bro, bring it on. I'd be stabbing the Chitauri things right in the face. Bring it. I got a chainsaw. I'll show you what a 16-inch chainsaw blade will do to your face in high gear.
Shop smart. Shop S smart.
Yes, shop smart. Shop S smart. Groovy.
Oh, baby, that's just pillow talk.
Bruce Campbell, great actor.
Oh, dude, my hero.
great writer.
I would want him to square off
Funny.
with the New World Order too. That we'd have to have him with us.
Yes, no, you need him. You need him with his Ash arm from
Absolutely.
Evil Dead, with his chainsaw arm, so he could fight right alongside of us. But I don't honestly think that's how it's going to go. How it works is, I'm a believer of quantum physics and studying quantum physics. I understand that at one of the most basic principles of quantum physics, the double slit experiment.
Yeah.
And what did that teach everybody that did that experiment when they started doing this? It taught them
2 slits are better than 1.
Right. Well, that's true. Maybe if you work in certain industries, but if the double slit experiment showed that the particle would only appear, well, the particle appeared where they observed it to appear.
That's right.
Meaning their act of mere observation on the event
made it happen. Yeah.
Changed things.
That's right.
So if we understand that, if we can understand on the basic level of just that, this is why I always go over basic rules of things, because from there can branch mighty trees of truth, knowledge, and power. And if we can understand that on a basic level, that the mere observation of something can change things on the quantum level, which then changes things on our level.
People have no idea the power they have.
Right. Exactly. So by people just listening to this stream right now, listening to this stream of consciousness that's flowing from the two of us out through the internet to all the destinations that it's being streamed to live right now, the people that are listening, the mere act of you listening to this broadcast is changing the outcome and turning the tide. And that, Joe, is why I believe they got so pissed off after 2016. It doesn't matter. Yes, I believe they allowed Trump to win, but I believe what really pissed them off, they blamed, Trump's win on the tech industry and social media. And we said right afterwards, I remember doing, during that stream, I even said to you guys, yeah, they're going to come after everybody, right? Because of all this. But they realized the reach that we had on social media. They may have they may have underestimated us, that, the internet was originally invented to track us and we turned it around on them. And that pissed them off. They understood that we were able, they understand the same concepts I'm talking to you about. They understand. So they knew that our mere act of observation and being able to talk very intellectually, yet on a level that everybody can understand about these subjects, changed the outcome, because now people were aware. What did Zbigniew Brzezinski say in 2008? Remember, I played that audio. I've played that video hundreds of times from when he was in Canada at the Council on Foreign Relations. He said, and I quote, he said that mankind has become politically awakened. The first time in history, mankind has become politically awakened the way it has. And they are understanding the difference between people who have and people who don't have, people who control and people who don't control. They're understanding a lot more political dynamics than ever before in mankind's history. And it used to be, and he said this, it was easier to control 1 million people than it was to kill 1 million people. But with advancements in technology, it is now easier to kill 1 million people than it is to control 1 million people. Brzezinski said this. This is not me saying this. This is Zbigniew Brzezinski saying this. In fact, Joe, I'll let you talk for a second. I'm going to mute myself. I have that clip. I'm going to go find it.
That's good.
A minute or two,
That's
and I'm going to find it because he actually says, he says it. Brzezinski's the founder, or one of the founders of the Trilateral Commission, another secret society douchebag organization. And guess who his daughter is? You know who his daughter is, right, Joe?
Joe Scarborough.
Mika Brzezinski. She's married to Joe Scarborough, the guy that they do the show Morning Joe on MSNBC 5 days a week. She's in the news. And her father, by the way, Zbig, he helped create the Taliban, not the Taliban, Al-Qaeda.
Al-Qaeda. Yeah.
Al-Qaeda. He helped to create Al-Qaeda, which, actually, those freedom fighters, the Mujahideen, they kind of morphed into the Taliban itself too a little bit. But Al Qaeda itself, there's pictures of him with Osama bin Laden.
That's right. And
but that's fine.
Well, think about it. Think about this for a second, right? So there's Captain Z, and he's doing his thing because he and Kissinger were like they're buddy, and of course Big Z is also he was a very influential member of the CFR. Mind you, also, by the way, I think there's over 100 journalists in the Council on Foreign Relations. So you'd have to ask a think tank, right? If journalism has two rules, and those rules are always follow the truth because the truth is the story. And the second rule is don't do anything that would create any biases that would prevent you from following rule number one. Okay. So you join the Council on Foreign Relations, which is basically a think tank for foreign policy and really provides direction. If you want to talk about the people behind the curtain for that to happen, well, why would you have the press there? 100 members, influential members at that. Well, it's quite simple. If you need something, kind of put out there, if you have something that you want pushed, do you wonder why you see all those people say the same thing time after time, no matter what outlet says it? There are things that they push, and the message that they're putting out there is basically the same thing in unison. You see people like Tucker Carlson play these people time after time. It sounds like robots. Everybody reading from the same script, no matter what channel you turn to, what news you watch, it's all the same. Well, oftentimes they come from these think tanks that have these people from media there and then go back home and they do this. They put it out. So it's not a surprise, not by any stretch of the imagination, just how influential a guy like Brzezinski was. And of course, he participated in Bilderberg, you name it, he was part of it. Him and David Rockefeller, very, very, very big into the backdoor meetings and the conversations. And so it's exactly what happened. They made the change agent through the Mujahideen, through the Taliban, through Al-Qaeda. They all morphed from the Mujahideen, but where did it come from? It came from blowback, from basically dropping them like a bad habit and leaving them out there for dead. And after we used them, so they're pretty pissed off and they want their pound of flesh. And that's why they attacked America, or so they say. But it's all because of us doing things that we're not supposed to be doing, Popeye. That's just it. We're not supposed to be going over and telling other people how to live or what to do. But yeah, this is great.
Wait, you mean we're not supposed to be invading other people's countries?
No.
I thought that was America. Oh, that's right. That's Team America, World Police. And I don't really actually want to be on that team. So right. Here's Zbigniew. This is him talking about how it's easier to kill 1 million people. And this is an old this video. This from an interview he was that was being conducted with him years ago. This is probably like 10 years old at least. But listen to this. Yeah, 2008.
Excellent.
Ladies and gentlemen, Robin, thank you very much for your, as always, elegant and eloquent introduction. I've heard it many times when he was running the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington. And if anything, his eloquence and elegance has increased ever since he's been rehabilitated in this society here. I'm also delighted to speak under the sponsorship of the Whitehead Lecture Series. John Whitehead, whom I've been privileged to know for many years, I will not talk about at length, but suffice it to say that he was, in my judgment, the best Deputy Secretary of State the United States has ever had. He should have been Secretary of State. And then finally, and the third comment, which may, however, precipitate some rapid departures from this room, but I want to emphasize that I speak for myself only. I speak for no one else. The views that I express are only my views. I want to emphasize that. Well, we meet at a time, of course, when the new president is assuming office in the United States. And he's doing so in the midst of a crisis of confidence in America's capacity to exercise effective leadership in world affairs. That's a stark thought, but it is a fact. Though American leadership over the last number of decades has been essential to global stability and to global development, after the United States replaced Great Britain
Uh-oh, did the audio take a dump?
and of ethical transgressions have cumulatively discredited that leadership.
Oh, good man.
And making matters worse today, we have the financial crisis.
Oh, yes, we do.
And all of that is occurring in the context of the simultaneous interaction between two very basic transforming developments on the world scene. So the picture is complex indeed. The first change concerns the surfacing of global issues pertaining to human well-being as critical international issues. Now, that's new in human history.
That's not
Issues such as climate, environment, starvation, health, social inequality. All of these are compounding the complexity of the global context. And these issues, furthermore, are made more acute by the coincidental phenomenon of what I have called in my writings the global political awakening. This is a truly transformative event on the global scene. Namely, that for the first time in human history, for the first time in all of human history, almost all of mankind is politically awake, activated, politically conscious, and interactive. There are only a few pockets of humanity here or there in the remotest corners of the world which are not politically alert and interactive with the political turmoil and stirrings and aspirations around the world. And all of that is creating a worldwide surge in the quest for personal dignity and cultural respect in a diversified world, sadly accustomed for many centuries to domination by one portion of the world of another.
Well, God forbid we don't want that anymore.
And beyond that is interacting with still a further change, namely in the distribution of global power. It pertains to something very obvious of which we're aware, but which it is important to register. Namely, that we're living at a time of a basic shift away from the 500 years long global domination by the Atlantic powers. It is the countries that have been located on the shores of the ocean, and let us recall them: Portugal, Spain, France, the Netherlands, Great Britain, more recently the United States, that have dominated world affairs. And that shift now is taking us towards Asia. It is not the end of the preeminence of the Atlantic world, but it is now the surfacing of the Pacific region, and most notably Japan, the #2 economic power, and China, a putative global power, that are now occupying a preeminent place in the global hierarchy. And of course, beyond them, there is the question of India's future development, though it is currently still in the wings, And it is also complicated by the reappearance of Russia, which is something to be welcomed, but a Russia which is still restless, rather unclear about its own definition, very ambivalent about its recent past, and very insecure about its place in the world. And these new and old major powers face still yet another novel reality, in some respects unprecedented. And it is that while the lethality of their power is greater than ever, their capacity to impose control over the politically awakened masses of the world is at a historical low. I once put it rather pungently, and I was flattered that the British Foreign Secretary repeated this, as follows. Namely, in earlier times, it was easier to control 1 million people, literally. It was easier to control 1 million people than physically to kill 1 million people. Today, it is infinitely easier to kill 1 million people than to control 1 million people. It is easier to kill than to control. And of course, that bears directly on the use of force, particularly by societies that are culturally alien over other societies.
You heard him.
Yep, right from the horse's mouth.
Clearly heard him say it's easier to, and that was in 2008. He's talking about China.
Well, but he's also talking about, and look at how much of that has come to pass. Look at how it's spot on, dude. I mean, because that's
14 years ago. And again, when we bring this up and play this in the past, people didn't know who Brzezinski was.
Nope.
During the Obama administration, he was Obama's #1 foreign policy advisor.
Big time advisor. Yeah. Almost akin to Henry Kissinger.
Yep. Him and Kissinger, both.
Yeah. But that level of who
you hear in my intro that good old Timmy Watts made years ago. What do you hear as the radio dial is being tuned in? You hear it squelching and you hear different voices and you hear someone go, "A new world order." That's Kissinger. And you just heard Brzezinski giving Kissinger props about he was the best Secretary of State we ever had. The souls that we were able to suck into our reptilian bodies when he was the Secretary of State.
Oh, yeah.
You could see him salivating. Like you could just hear the salivation coming out of his mouth as he was talking about it.
I mean, these are the same, of course, just like you said, these are the same people that do their rituals and all that. The Franklin cover-up was a big expose into that, and Bohemian Grove, and these are all those people that do that, and the assless chaps and the goat heads and the do.
Yeah,
and
it doesn't matter if you or I believe in it. They believe in this crap.
But that's the point. They believe in it. So you have to understand it is legit. It's legit whether you like it or not, whether you agree with them or not, whether you aspire to be like them or not. It doesn't matter. The fact is it's legit to them, that it has power for them. So that's where you have to you can't force your will on them no more than they can force their will on you.
No,
they have the same amount of power you do ultimately, because you can ultimately say, I don't consent. I don't want to participate.
The observation of this and the understanding of all this, it changes the equation. Okay, so I'm a big, when people are like, we can't do anything, you are doing something. I'm not saying listening by itself will stop things.
No.
But understanding and actually
situational awareness, dude.
Yes, actually understanding that what's going on and that information, well, then you will change things, because now you're going to have conversations, or you're going to do things differently for your family that you maybe wouldn't have done. That changes things. They wanted to have this done by 2000. It's 2022, and they still haven't.
And they're having a hell of a time. Yeah, I mean, and look at, they've had to kill a lot of people. They've had to destroy countries, economies. I mean, they've upended entire continents. They will stop at nothing to achieve what they want to do. And I know a lot of people are like, they, but it truly is. It's a small group of people. As a matter of fact, it was propaganda that kind of was the first real work, I should say, that kind of threw that out there about how, at that time, I think it was 80 million or 120, like 120 million Americans. It was right around 100 million. And they were controlled by a small group of dominant men who oftentimes didn't understand, or let's just say didn't know one another on a personal level, but they knew what they had to do when they had to do it. They understood the dynamics of the plan and they executed, and also not worrying about what kind of damage there was to the chattel, us. So it's like George Carlin said, isn't it? It's a small group and you're not in it.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. It's a small group and you're not in it.
Yep.
None of us are in it. You and I are not in the big club. And then what did he say? Consequently, it's the same big club they used to beat you over the head with.
That's right. It's one tool in the government's toolbox, and that's a hammer.
Yeah. So everything's going to be a nail.
That's right. That's right. That's why I can't really feel okay that we're finally at this point where it's taken this long and you think you're there. It's like Chicken Little, the sky is falling and it doesn't happen and it doesn't happen and it doesn't happen. But when I saw that inflation start to kick off, I was like, oh, brother, here it comes. Because once
you remember,
it won't stop.
Do you remember when Ron Paul was running for president again, going back to 2008 and before? People were like, we're going to have hyperinflation. And everyone's like, shut up. Shut up, you stupid conspiracy theorist retard. You don't know what you're talking about. I'd have copies of America Freedom to Fascism whipped back at me. We used to give DVDs out on street corners. We've given out thousands. I mean, like 50 to 60,000 copies of about 20 different movies over the course of time. And I used to walk around with DVDs in a backpack and like, I just give out. I go up to people and be like, hey, my friends are documentary filmmakers. Would you like to see a copy of their film? Yeah, sure. Here, take a free DVD copy. Let me know what you think of the movie. And didn't matter what movie I was passing out. I wouldn't be like, oh, the New World Order. I would just be like, my friends are documentary filmmakers. And, and then people, you approach people, I used to give out DVDs.
Well, that was the day before. That was back in the day before copyright really bit you in the ass.
Oh, dude, we had so many things. A lot of the movies, the documentaries weren't copyright protected.
Yeah, try and hand that stuff out today, dude. Oh man, you'll have 50 lost.
Pop out 5. I could burn 5 copies of a movie on this one.
Yeah, you have that DVD burning tower. Yeah,
you've seen my tower.
Yeah.
It would just pump out movies. I'd get 2,000 movies burnt within a few days, and then we'd go out on the street and give them out. And people, DVDs hurt when they come whipping back out a car window at you. Someone flicks that thing like it's a Frisbee. They do hurt when they hit you. But we used to get bottles of water thrown at us, called idiots. And I would really love to just go find those people that whipped Aaron Russo's Freedom to Fascism.
How you feeling now?
Out of the window. Mm-hmm. I'd go find them right now and ask them how they feel about hyperinflation.
Or 80,000. Let's hire 80,000 stormtroopers to go and collect taxes.
It's fine. I really want to. I got to get a hold. We got to get a hold of Joe Bannister.
Oh yeah, I'll reach out to him. Hey, but seriously,
we got to get a hold of Joe Bannister. For those of you who are not sure, Joe Bannister is actually one of the guys you see in America Freedom to Fascism. You see him being interviewed by Aaron. He was a former IRS agent. He actually used to train the guys that kick in doors. He used to train the teams, and he realized, he did his own research into whether there's a law, and Sherry Peel Jackson, same thing. She was another former IRS agent. She somebody put out a thing in the newspaper. I'll give you 25 grand if you can show me the law. And she thought, oh, I work for the IRS. This is going to be an easy, quick 25 grand. And years later, she still hasn't found that law that says that you have to pay taxes. So people understand there is no income tax law on the book.
No, it's an invisible contract. They rook you into it.
You agree when you sign your W-2, your 1099, whatever it is you sign.
It's W-4.
Yeah, the W-4. your W-4 forms, whatever, the W-2, W-4, whatever. I don't, it's been so long since I actually filled them out. I forget what they even look like, but I can tell you that
just
that is how they nail you.
Caesar what Caesar wants, and then be a good boy. Otherwise, you get your legs broken.
Well, that's basically what the IRS is. So the IRS, if you look at it like The Sopranos, okay,
makes it a whole lot easier to understand.
Are Paulie Walnuts and Christopher Moltisanti.
That's it.
Okay,
yeah,
and the
rest in peace, Paulie. By the way,
Federal Reserve, right? The Federal Reserve is Tony Soprano. It's James Gandolfini, right? And Gandolfini says, hey, these, through the IRS, they say, hey, look, so-and-so hasn't paid their taxes. We got to get our taxes. We haven't gotten our piece. So what would they do in the show? They would show up to the restaurant owner and they'd be like, hey, you didn't pay your protection money this week. It'd be real bad if my cousin Jimmy here, he's a firebug. Believe it or not, Jimmy just got out of jail. He did 10 years upstate for burning things down to the ground. He was crazy, firebug, crazy. It'd be a real shame if I couldn't keep my cousin Jim out of your neighborhood. He might come by and accidentally burn your restaurant to the ground. But if you pay my protection money, I'll make sure that doesn't happen. It's the same thing. The IRS comes and shakes you down. Except they're worse, because at least the Sopranos, at least you could give Paulie Walnuts or Christopher Moltisanti some money and they'd leave you the hell alone.
They did the barter system too. So if you didn't have money, I mean, you would give them like a few chickens or whatever the heck it was. They'd take whatever you had. But I mean, come on. The government, it's not like you can barter with the IRS. Hey, I'll give you a 1972 Willie Mays card for that. No,
dude,
not how
the IRS is horrible.
The next step with the IRS, by the way, the reason why they're doing this is because crypto, because
all you Bitcoiners out there
tried to get around things are going to get caught. And this is the part.
You friggin' tax cheats, you.
Oh, yeah. This is what this is all about, folks. It's to go back and they're going to punish people for being naughty. You wait.
Yeah, you tax cheats. By the way, they're coming after the gig economy. Because if you think they're going after the millionaires and the billionaires, that's why you're making Cash App and Venmo report any transactions over $600. That's why last year, not even a year ago, they were talking about how they wanted the ability to go into your bank account and they wanted to look into everybody's account and be able to monitor, and they wanted it reported to them via the banks. Not the IRS isn't going to actively monitor. It's your bank that does it for them. They wanted the banks to monitor people's accounts and notify them of any transactions over $600.
Yeah.
So if you had, and I don't mean like a single transaction, I mean a total of transactions for the month.
That's right. $600. And Jay Watt in chat room society, just like China, right? So just like China. China was the beta test for all this.
But who here in today's society, Joe, doesn't spend $600 through their checking account?
Everybody does.
Right.
Everybody does.
So exactly. So there's your answer as to whose accounts they wanted to look at. And I know we got about a minute and a half for the end of the show. But the other thing to remember is this. The nominee, and I can never remember her name, she's this Chinese communist lady that the Biden administration was trying to put into a position in the Treasury Department, and she failed. Her nomination failed, but it was like assistant, whatever. But she would have been up there, and she was doing like live streams during the pandemic and on Twitter. And one of them, and I think she was streaming to YouTube, and she was talking about how the idea is, and what would be a great idea would be to federalize through the fake Federal Reserve. Make the Federal Reserve in charge of every bank account. So no more private banks. Everything is owned by the Federal Reserve. And long story short, that way, when you owe your taxes, they can just reach in. There's no more arguing with you. They can just reach into your account and take it out whenever they need it.
That's convenient.
So convenient. It's so convenient for the new world
order. Nice.
Anyway, we're out of time. Thank you for hanging out tonight. Appreciate it, brother.
Thank you.
And it's always fun to hang out with you and enlightening for the listeners. And ladies and gentlemen, I know we talk a lot about dark stuff and scary stuff here, but as I said, the act of observation is going to change the outcome of the equation. Okay, so that's the way it is. You have to believe in quantum physics. And with that, I'm going to leave you with my favorite Martin Luther King Jr. quote. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. I love you all, and I'll see you all again live next week. We are out.